Let's talk about Vlookup function in Excel. Alright, and what is the importance of Vlookup? Vlookup stands for vertical lookup. In this example, I have three worksheets, starting with the transactions worksheet. Next is the products worksheet, and last is the customers worksheet. Now, let's say for example, in my transactions worksheet, I have a given transaction date, stock date, product ID, customer ID, store ID, and store quantity. However, what I want to happen, I need to know the product name on this transaction, or I want to know the customer name who is involved on each transaction. So how can we simplify or define them based on the given transaction? Each product and customer is represented by ID. And when you go to products worksheet, here you can see the product ID and the attributes of products table. When you go to customers, we also have here the customer ID, and that it also includes the customer details. Now, how can we use VLOOKUP? All right, before we apply VLOOKUP, let me add name managers here. To start with, let me go to products worksheet, select A1. On my keyboard, I'm holding Control, Shift, right arrow key to select all columns. Again, let me repeat, Control, Shift, right arrow. Okay, release that. Next, hold Control again, hold Shift, and then press down arrow to select all rows. Okay, once you have it, let's name this as PR table. PR table stands for product table. Enter. Next, let's go to customers table and do the same thing. Select cell A1, Control Shift right arrow to select all columns, Control Shift down arrow to select all rows, and let's name this as C table. Alright, now we're done with selections of names. Let's start with products. For products, I need to pull out the product name. And the product name is positioned on the third column of this table. If I need to look up that data, let's go back to transactions worksheet. Let's add here product name. For the product name column, let's start with equal VLOOKUP. All right. VLOOKUP has four syntax: lookup value, table array, column index number, and range lookup. When we say lookup value stands for the reference cell or the data for comparison. And that is cell C2. So we have here VLOOKUP with C2 as the cell reference, comma. Now, for VLOOKUP, we need to identify which table will be included in the formula. If we need the product name can be found under PR table, comma. PR table contains multiple columns, right? And what we did earlier, we find the product name in the third column of the PR table. So for the column index number, type number 3. 3 represents column number that you want to look up in the PR table. And lastly, comma, the last option is range lookup. You can only type 2 items here. You can type number 1. 1 means approximate match. 0 means exact match. In our case, we will use 0 to find the exact match of that ID inside the product table or PR table. If we're done, press enter. And then autofill. It will define the exact name of product based on the given product ID. In this case, product ID 869 is National Grapefruit Roll. Let me check on that one. Go back to products. Let me add a basic filter on this header by selecting all columns, then click filter. Let me go to this product ID, drop down. On the search box, type 869 and press enter. As you can see, Vlookup create an exact match of 869 under the third column product name that results to National Grapefruit Roll. Let's select all and go back to the original table. Now, I have the product name. Next, I need to display the customer name. Customer name under transactions table. Let's type it here. And let's go back to customers table. So far in the customers table, I only have first name, last name. I don't have a full name column. So how do we add? Can we insert a column here and type full name? And let's use a basic Excel function, ampersand, to concatenate the first name and the full name. So let's add in equal the value of the first name, ampersand double quote space, double quote ampersand last name. So I have here now the full name, and full name is positioned in the fifth column, that's column E, the fifth column of the C table or customers table. Now, how can we get that data? Let's go back to transactions table and let's implement VLOOKUP. For VLOOKUP, this time, the reference is the customer ID. So let's start with equal VLOOKUP, open parenthesis, lookup value is the customer ID, comma, table array is C table, comma, column index number 5, and lastly, comma, 0 for exact match. By the way, on the last part, the range lookup syntax, you can type 1 or 0, or you can also type true or false. 1 is equivalent to true, 0 is equivalent to false. It's the same thing, right? Might as well try to use 1 or 0 to make it more simple. Okay, so customer name is Lanawis. It's autofill. And let's verify if this is really Lanawis. How do we do that? Let's go back to customers table, highlight on the header, add a filter, and click on the drop down. On the search box, that is customer 3449, and that is Lanawis in our customers table. All right, so that's how we implement VLOOKUP. And good thing is that VLOOKUP can help us encode the exact data on a certain lookup table or database without manually typing or searching for that information at all. So the next time you need to add more information in your transactions table, like this one, VLOOKUP is one of the useful tools that we can implement. And that's it for VLOOKUP function.